Hello, everyone. We are so glad that you're with us. And we are talking to Tim Winfrey in the Chicago and Orlando markets. And he is going to be talking about direct to seller marketing. He also has an agent six-figure boot camp. And he actually is a brokerage owner, but he's also an investor. He's actually sold hundreds of houses retail. He's also flipped hundreds of homes, and he's also done a ton with wholesaling, and he's also done a lot with just flipping. So we're excited to have you. So Tim, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So I want you to first kind of talk about your Facebook because you are doing a great job with Facebook. I'd love for you to share your screen and kind of show us some of the ways that you are attracting agents and how you're attracting direct to seller marketing.
hmm Sure, I'd be happy to. Um, can you guys see this okay? I'm sharing the right screen.
We see your email right now. Do you want to share your Facebook?
Sorry. All right. So essentially it's like building an audience and then writing copy, right? So I mean, it's just kind of understanding an audience. Like if you're looking to attract agents, like building an audience is very easy. You just friend request 50 agents every day, and about half of them are going to accept your friend request. So getting people into your audience, not very hard. It's really just consistent action over time. 50 friend requests a day, you'll have 5,000 friends within a year, guaranteed, possibly as fast as 90 days. If you're local to your area, if you're sticking local, you could get a very high acceptance rate. And the reason for that is simple. People local to you will see that you're an agent and they'll be like, oh, I might have worked with this guy before. Maybe I should accept this. So from there, you just kind of start talking to them with your wall. The way I look at things is like everything I post on my wall, it's a free advertisement. This is if you were able to get results with a free advertisement, it's something that'll scale if you pay with it, right? So you test your wall with ads. And the ad's it's fairly simple. This is more of a long form post. And I could kind of break down exactly my intent behind each line because there's a lot of thought that goes into these posts. It's not something I could just whip up in 10 minutes. But the reason most real estate agents are not successful is not because of the market or interest rates. Why did I say that? Because most agents I talk to are complaining about the state of the market or they're complaining about interest rates. I'm literally just speaking to things that agents say. So
Yeah, so you're
agents,
starting with like all the things that people are thinking right now, right?
Mhm.
Agents right now are thinking interest rates are a problem, finding sellers right now is a problem, finding inventory is a problem. So you're starting off the post with whatever they're thinking right now. Keep going.
Mhm. Yeah, so that's exactly the point I'm trying to make. So one hard and fast rule with copywriting is if you understand who you're talking to and if you could say what they're thinking, it's very hard not to make sales, right? So that's exactly what I'm doing. And then the next paragraph, I'm going to be kind of creating an enemy out of things that I know they've tried and they probably haven't had results with. So it's not their fault. It's the strategies that they used fault. And ultimately, like in full honesty, it's never the strategy, it's the implementation, it's the execution of the strategy. But I'm creating an enemy that's not the person reading, right? So most realtors are struggling because they buy courses, they listen to people telling them to do farming, cold calling, SOI. These are all strategies people have tried. And this is really just framing my strategy as something that's better than what they've tried and what they've failed at.
I like what you just said. It's not necessarily the strategy, it's the execution of the strategy. And I think that's probably the number one problem of everyone listening here is they know what to do. They're just kind of going into this trail of let me learn more, let me learn more, let me learn more. And they're not actually executing on any of the actual strategy.
Yes. I would argue it's everybody's problem, honestly. Like
Yeah.
most people will say they have a lead problem, but truly they're just not following up with the leads and they're not calling the leads in the capacity they should be.
Yeah. So I like what you said. So step one, if you're trying to attract agents, Or if you're trying to, you can actually do it both ways. If you're trying to attract agents, then you can friend request 50 agents per day. If you're
Hmm.
trying to attract sellers, you could actually friend request 50 people per day and then, you know, get yourself up to 5,000 people. And then you can start private messaging some of these people, whatever it is that you're going for, if you're trying to attract them as an agent. So let's say someone did that at first, right? So they attracted 50 agents, they're getting a ton of agents that are in there. What would they private message them to get them to have a phone call with them? Because this is more of a very salesy post that you just put on here. Is there
Absolutely, it is.
is there a way that you could maybe make it a little bit more personal? So if you wanted to reach out, let's say you were reaching out to me personally, how would you do it differently that it was a very more of a personal instead of a salesy ad?
Hmm. Great question. And before I dive into that, I'd like to highlight something you said. Like you mentioned, this could work like business to, like I would consider this business to business. This could certainly work business to consumer as well. And what I would do there is I would just look for people that live in a city I want to target. And then your marketing is a lot softer. It's really just posting results as often as you can. Your just listed, just solds, and all of those things. It would have the same effect, but everybody that sees it is local to your area. So it's a way to kind of farm your community digitally. Um, to answer your direct question, I like to create a Facebook group, honestly, so I could have a very soft introduction. So if I'm going to be doing like a cold message, my preferred cold message is like, hey, I created this Facebook community. There'll be a lot of free, cool stuff for you to solve this problem that you have. Is it something you'd like an invitation to? And then they say yes, I'll invite them to the group. And then I'll wait a couple days. And then I'll send them a follow-up message like, hey, thanks for joining the group. I want to make this group as valuable as possible. Is it okay if I ask you 2 or 3 questions so that I can make this as beneficial for you as I can? A
Okay,
lot of people are,
that's a great idea. So let's stay on that. So let's pretend someone wants to recruit agents. Then the name of their Facebook group might be something like how to lead generate for real estate agents. And then you would create this lead generation group where everyone shares their best ideas for lead generation. Now they're able to send referrals back and forth for buyers and sellers. They're able to, and then this group is not about promoting whatever real estate company they have. That would just be on the side, but this is a very generic real estate group where it's just all about giving information, and then they're just building relationships that way. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
100%. So you will want this neutrally branded. Your group title is perfect, by the way. Lead generation for realtors, because if you just like, what do realtors want? It's not like what do they need? Because in my opinion, they need to refine their sales process. Um, but they don't want that. So you give them what they want. You could sell them what they need, which is lead generation. Everybody wants lead generation things. If you could put a new strategy up every week, there's going to be people that want it no matter what. So you give them what they want always.
I love it. Okay, so let's keep diving in with this post that you did, because I think people do need help with writing content and how to write copy to get the response that you need. So I love that. So you started out with number one is whatever the person's problem is. So you're saying the
Mhm.
reason most agents aren't successful is not because of the market or interest rates. The problem is finding sellers that are truly motivated to sell. So then what? What's the next piece of that copy?
Hmm. Absolutely. So basically, this is your typical PAS framework and copywriting. So it's pain, agitate, solve. So the first goal is to call out the pain. You're a realtor, you're having this
So say
pain.
that again. I didn't understand what you said. You said pain agitates what?
Pain, agitate, then solve. So first thing is
Oh,
to call the
pain,
pain.
agitate, and then solve. Okay, got it.
And then the second thing is to do what they would call fanning the flames, agitate the pain. Um, so that's precisely what I'm doing here. I'm calling out the pain. And this is where I said, like, somebody else is the bad guy. It's like you're struggling because you're getting told to do it the wrong way. Is that a true belief? No, but it's something that people will respond to. Nobody wants to be the bad guy, right? They like it when somebody else is or the perpetrator, probably a better word there. So it's saying like the problem is that the success rate of these strategies that they're being taught is extremely low, which is true. Um, and then it's just giving more ways to fan the flames, so to speak. Like the key to having, and then I tell them like solve. The key is having sellers raise their hand asking you to reach out to them. And that's kind of something everybody wants to. And I also worded it in a way that's appealing to an agent. It's like, of course, I want to talk to sellers that want me to reach out to them. Everybody would kill for that. So that's really it. Like if I was to simplify it, like you speak to a pain people are experiencing, you try to fan the flame, so to speak. You either call out somebody else as the enemy, and then you give them a solution to their pain. It's kind of the
I love that.
simplest way to
Yes,
look
I've
at it.
heard that before, but the way I've heard it is it's called Pain Agitate Solution, and this
Yeah.
acronym is PAS, and it's a
Yeah.
copywriting formula where
Hmm.
you're using empathy and emotion to promote whatever it is that you want, right? So you start out with whatever the problem is, then you are like, oh, I have so much concern for you. And then you create the solution for whatever that is. And then I like the way you said it is somewhere in there, you're kind of fanning the flame of whatever they're agitated about. And then it's like, boom, I've got the solution.
Hmm. Yeah. Well said. Exactly. That's every sale is emotional. So being able to walk people through an emotional experience is really what this is all about. You want them to feel an emotion. If they don't feel an emotion, it's not copywriting, it's just words.
So good. So let's talk a little bit. Let's change fields here, and let's talk a little bit about what you do for getting direct to seller marketing, because right now that is a big thing that people are looking for. We're all needing sellers. So what are you doing to go straight to the seller for marketing, and walk us through the exact steps? You can stop sharing if you want.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, I would call it direct response marketing. Um, and it's fairly simple, right? So I mean, step number one is acquiring data in some capacity. So depending on where you are, like I could actually get data from like Remine, based on some of this stuff. But the easiest, most cost-effective way that I know of, there's two of them I'll talk about. One of them is just simply driving for dollars. You could use an app called Deal Machine, which makes it very easy to, not double tap routes and stuff like that, and also gives you seller contact information, so you're not paying from multiple sources. Um, Action steps to take for that, like I would recommend strongly to try to find 50 houses a day. And what you're looking for is unkept lawns. If you're in a snowy area, driveways that are not plowed, stickers on the door, overflowing mailboxes. Another important thing to note is like pay attention to what area you're in. If you're in a high priced area, you're going to be a little bit less picky about what houses you write down, right? So the example I'd like to share a lot is like Hinsdale, Illinois, #1 school district in the state. If I see a window air conditioner there, that's something wrong. So 50 houses a day, that takes about 2 hours. If you're in a semi-dense area, it could be suburban, as long as there's a decent amount of properties, about 2 hours of work there. Then you want to reach out to them. Oh, and the other lead generation strategy, this is a Freedom of Information Act request, excuse me, or FOIA for short. It's just asking your local municipality for the water shut-off list. So you want to be very specific with that. Like, hello, most of them have a FOIA request portal, by the way. So if I were to do this, I would search like Carroll Stream, Illinois, FOIA requests, FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. And then it's just a click away. So then you're submitting into the FOIA request portal. Hello, I would like to get a list of all the properties that have had their water shut off in the past 30 days. This is a
So
FOIA request.
are you actually calling the water company directly? So I'm literally calling the water company and saying, hi there, my name's Chantel, I'm an agent, and I would like to get the list of everybody who has gotten their water shut off in the last 30 days. Can you email that information to me? And you're saying because of the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, and you can say because of the FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, I would like to get the people who've had their water shut off in the last 30 days, and they're going to email that list to me. Is that correct?
Essentially, I've never called. I'll just show it real quick for ease of use here. It's like submitting a FOIA for the village of Carroll Stream, I'm using that because this is where I live. Like it's as simple as clicking on this link, and then there's like a form to fill out, FOIA request form. So you put in your information, then you'll put a description. And this is where essentially you'll be like, I'm requesting the list of the properties that have had the water shut off in the last 30 days. And then you want to specify, even though this is the FOIA request form, that this is a FOIA request. Because if you're ever getting any pushback, and you're like, oh, I can't share that information. It's like, well, this is a Freedom of Information Act request. So that's all.
Hey, I apologize for interrupting. I had a question about there was like a specific app you said when driving to use to keep your routes organized.
Yeah,
Yes,
Deal
so
Machine.
that was dealmachine.com.
Thank
So
you.
you guys, yeah, just if you guys can, just because your internet was a little bit spotty, if you guys have any questions, just type them in the chat and I'm happy to ask him for that because we are recording this for everyone. So that way we can make sure the sound is really good quality. Okay, so yes, so that's dealmachine.com. So maybe you can just share your screen or explain what dealmachine.com actually does for you. Because that's a very good question that he asked him. Like, explain that a little bit more in detail. How much does it cost and why is it beneficial for you?
Great question. So full context and clarity here, I'm not currently using Deal Machine. This is a great like entry level platform. And basically what it does, this is a good example here. When you're driving for dollars, like you don't want to be double tapping the same areas, at least not with like 6 months or so. And then you could hit the same areas again. Because if anybody's seen a vacant house for 6 months, they deteriorate way quicker than you would think they would. But anyways, this will track your routes. And if, for example, let's say this house, well, they just did it. How convenient. Um, if that house looks like it's a little bit rough or it has showing signs of vacancy, you literally click on it. And then you'll be able to pull the seller contact information too. There's also a click away from a postcard. I think it's 50 cents a postcard or something like that.
Okay,
So
so hold on, let me understand. So what you're saying is you buy dealmachine.com and
Mhm.
there's an app and like when you're driving around, you see a house that you think, okay, this house looks like they haven't mowed the lawn, it looks dilapidated. So I'm gonna click on that house on the app, and
Mhm.
that app will actually send a postcard for you with your name, your information, so that they can kind of reach out to you saying, hey, something like, I'm interested in buying your house. Is that kind of correct on how I've explained that?
Yes, it's perfect. But yeah, you'll get the contact information as well. So postcards are great. If you're sending postcards, just be prepared. It's a long game. Don't expect to send one postcard to one person and get any results, right? It's all volume. That's what direct response is. But you also get their phone number. So you send them a postcard, you call them, you could shoot them a text. The message is always the same. It's like, hey, my name is first name. Saw you had this property. Is it something you would think about selling or you would sell for the right price?
So are you having more success with the phone number and texting them or with the postcard itself?
Um, Absolutely. Yeah, I prefer texting and phone calls, and even voicemails sometimes. Most CRMs have voicemail drops. Just kind of keep in mind, like if you send 1,000 voicemails out, you're actually going to get more calls back to you than like people interested, if that makes sense. Like most people don't listen to the voicemail. They get the drop and they're like, oh, I'll call this person back. Um, but it is advantageous over a cold call because they called you. So it kind of takes away their number one thing. Oh, I don't have time for this. Are you sure? You just called me.
Okay. So that's one option is you could actually drive around, you'd hit, this is the house I want information on, and it'll send postcards or send you their phone number. What else does Deal Machine help you with?
Um, well, conveniently, it's right here. Um, so you could also pull lists from them. And I have a couple friends doing this. Basically, through Deal Machine, you could pull 10,000 leads a month. And you could kind of use stack data lists where you're targeting. With stack data, you could get really creative. But like say you want absentee owners, pre-foreclosures. That tends to be a low volume list, but it's high yield, right? Because they have two really big problems. They're in pre-foreclosure and nobody lives there. Obviously, they probably want to sell it, or they should sell it. You'd be surprised some people stick their head in the sand. But that's a great list to look for. Absentee owner lists. This is also going to be varying quite a bit by state. For context there, in Illinois, out-of-state landlords are great lists. Because if they live out of state and they don't live in Illinois anymore, a good chance they want to sell. Like a very good chance. We have a lot of people leaving our state. Florida is very different, right? Like out-of-state landlords isn't the best list. It's not a bad list because most of them are snowbirds. But you're also, there's complications there, right? Because I'm talking to somebody in Michigan about a house in Florida, hard to get access to the house and stuff like that. So it's one of those things you'll have to try and test things based on your market because every market is going to have a different data list that works really well. But what I could promise is every market that is fairly decent density, there's a data list that is going to work.
I want to tell you, one of the reasons why I joined and I just love Canzel is that I can get 100% commission, I get revenue share, and I get stock. I am making thousands of dollars every single month in revenue share and stocks. And I now don't have to work nights and weekends on real estate anymore. You know, I've actually never been to a real estate agent's retirement party, and I want to be the first one that people are coming to at a young age. And I want to share with you some of my favorite resources. So if you go to joincanzel.com/free, there's a couple that I want you to download. One is a 20 free lead generating PDF. It's going to help you generate leads for free that you can download, as well as there's one on how to double your business. I don't want you to miss it. Go download it today. joincanzel.com/free.
So, okay, you can stop sharing your screen right now. So what I'm hearing, the way that you're making the most amount of your money right now is doing wholesaling, where you're contacting these sellers and maybe the house is in really bad condition. You're buying the house at a really low price, then turning around and selling it to someone else and allowing them to flip it. Is that what I'm hearing is kind of your bread and butter right now that you're making a ton of money doing?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, obviously we list a lot of properties. In Illinois, I actually prefer to refer out the listings, which is why I think more realtors should do this because everybody wants more listings. And in my preference, I prefer to wholesale more deals. I prefer working off market if I can. And that's simple because the margins are better. Like I've interviewed real estate experts across the country. I don't think there's a faster velocity for growth in terms of short-term cash flow than the wholesale model.
So right now, if you were going to buy a list, and we had a guy on our episode a couple weeks ago where he just sells lists. If you had to pick the list where you could get the best sellers right now, would you say it is the people who you got from that water shutoff list? Or was it where are you getting the highest return right now from the different lists that you're getting?
Well, you could call Steve. That's the guy that was on a couple weeks ago, right? He's a friend of mine. So one thing you could do, like I said, because it's going to vary by area, you could talk to somebody that's more of an expert on building lists and also knows what's going on in your market. That'll be very helpful. So Steve is great. Another provider like that is 80/20. They do predictive data, but they're not cheap. And I think you need to be doing 2 to 4 deals a month to even qualify for them. But there's other ways to do it, right? Like if you have Deal Machine, you could just get data from them, right? So what I would recommend, honestly, like on the front end, like this is a volume play. Your outflow equals your inflow. And what that means is the more messages you get out, the more people are going to raise their hand and reach back out to you. So in terms of like volume, like I do on average of like 10,000 text messages a week.
Okay, so I want you to tell me the exact text message that you're sending. So let's say that you got a list of somebody who hasn't paid their water got shut off in the last 30 days. Are you literally sending a text message that says, "Hey Susie, I saw that your water got shut off in the last 30 days. I was wondering if you had any interest in selling your home because I'm interested in buying your home right now." Like what is it? What are you sending?
Oh, you don't want to do that. A little
What's
bit
the
more
exact
vague.
test?
Yeah, I was gonna say a little bit more vague is ideal there, because if you say, "I see your water was shut off in the past 30 days," it's kind of accusatory. People are not going to respond favorably to
I know, I'm just joking.
that.
I'm joking, but I wanted you to tell me what is the
I think
text?
it was great. So it could be very simple. Like, "Hey, I saw you owned address. Is that a property you would consider selling?" Your goal is to get a yes. You want it to be a soft question that elicits a response. Another one, because like with the volume of text we do, I need to use a variety of messages, because if I send the same message from the same phone number, carriers are going to block me. So another one is like, "Hey, just bought a house in your area. We're looking for another deal this month. Would you consider selling?" But really, there's any variation of that, you just throw it into ChatGPT and say this same question 30 different ways. Any of them should work. One piece of advice on top of that, like whatever ChatGPT writes back to you, please rewrite it in a way that a human would speak. I think as it gets more and more over time, it uses verbiage that are like very college grade, not the way people speak at all. So like rewrite whatever ChatGPT sends you into a way that's actually people communicate in real life.
Okay, so let me just repeat that. So what I heard you say is the best way to do it is to say, "Do you own the house at 123 B Street? I am looking to buy a house just like yours. Do you have any interest in selling?"
Mhm.
Okay, and then you would take that, put that into ChatGPT and say, "Please rewrite this in the most, natural way that you can." And then make sure that you're sending that same text, but in a different way. And it'll give you, 50 different versions, because you got to make sure that when you're sending a text, you don't want it to block it. So you're going to ask it in a whole bunch of different ways. Did I hear that right?
Mhm. Yeah,
And
that's
then
perfectly right.
out of those people, what would you say? Would you say like 1 out of 20 respond, or what's kind of the ratio, so they know how many text messages do they need to write in order to get these people to respond?
Yeah, so I mean, I have metrics on that. So essentially, if it's a first batch message, our response rate tends to be about 10%. And that is any type of response, right? That's not whether it's positive or negative, right? So like in terms of actual positive response rate, you're looking at about 1% on a text message. Actually a little bit, I would say maybe a tenth of 1% actually is a better way to say that. So if you send 1,000 messages, you'll get, maybe 1 to 5 leads. So that's usually the metric I work on, like as a baseline. You're getting new to this, 1,000 messages a day on average. And like some additional context there, I would send more volume on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday than I do Monday, Friday. And that's just simple sales. You sell more in the meat of the week than you will on the front and the back end. So if I was doing 1,000 messages a day, I'd probably do maybe 200 on Monday and Friday. And then I'd make up the difference there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and do 1,500 a day or whatever it would be.
Awesome. Well, his website, if you guys want to learn more, is agentsixfigurebootcamp.com. That's agentsixfigurebootcamp.com, and it's all spelled out. And he actually will do, if you want to have your calendar filled with listing appointments, he actually will do a strategy call with you, a free strategy call. So you can reach out to him. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat, and we'll type it in the show notes as well.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a rating and a review so we can get this out to more agents. And tune in next week for another power-packed episode. This is the Millionaire Real Estate Podcast.